Right, here are your headlines. 0 to 60, 2.6 seconds. Horsepower, 680. Four-wheel drive. It corners incredibly and charges 80% in 23 minutes. This is an extraordinary feat of motoring ingenuity. And Leasing.com have given me some questions. Time now is 9:48. I have set the odometer to 0 and this is how much battery I've got. We're going to see how many miles we do today doing this thing, what time it is when we get back, and what that says at the end, which will be the answer to question number 1. How much battery does it use in the real world? Right, what do we got next? How fast is it compared to other cars? Right, well, that 2.6 seconds is a little bit quicker than one of these. This is the McLaren 650S. It's quicker than this, the Ferrari 488, and one of these, the Lamborghini Centenario. It isn't quite as quick as the Tesla Model S. It's also not quite as quick as this. This is the Aspark Owl. Look at that, 1.7 seconds 0 to 60, and that is officially the fastest hypercar in the world. Right, next, what have we got? Can it do normal stuff? I've got my questions here in the cup holder, 2 cup holders. Yes, it can. I'm going to show you that it can by doing something normal. I'm at a supermarket. In fact, while I'm looking for a parking space, I'm now going to put on the additional sound mode, which is called Electric Sport On. That now gives you almost like a sub-rumble sound. And then when you are looking for a space, you scare everyone, right? So this is quite a large car. In fact, a lot larger than you think it is. It's nearly the same size as a Range Rover. When you see these, you think, well, hang on, that's like a 911. It isn't. It's big. 5 meters long, 2.8 meters wide. Now, all of these car parking spaces are 4.8, which means in theory, this won't fit. But let's have a go. To put reverse in, I use this, which is my gear selector, motor reverse selector. First thing I notice is the cars are a little bit distorted as I turn in, and we are in. So the answer to your question is yes, it can, but who am I kidding? Someone with one of these, they don't go to Sainsbury's. It's a Cardo, isn't it?
Unexpected item in bagging area.
Is it too expensive? Right, well, no. There's been a lot of this, actually. A lot of people saying it's too expensive. This particular one, the one in the middle, is £115,000. Now, there is a cheaper one, £85,000. If you're going to lease, it's going to be, what, £800 a month to £1,600 a month, something like that. But this is still 39% cheaper than one of these. This is a Mercedes GTR Pro. It's also 28% cheaper than this, the Lamborghini Huracan. And that's before you talk about fuel. The Lamborghini has a fuel tank of 80 litres. It costs £88 to fill it up. That will give you 255 miles of range at 15 miles to the gallon. This has 216 miles of range. Do that. And the worst case scenario will be £26 to charge it out and about, or about £12 or £14 from home. Then there's the insurance. The Lamborghini, for me, £1,000 excess, £2,800 was a quote I got given. How much do you think this is for me? £1,000 excess. £587 a year. Something like the Huracan also needs to be serviced every 9,000 miles. It will cost between $850 and $2,500 per service. That only needs to be seen once every 2 years for a look around. They'll charge you a look around fee for it, and it won't need brakes for up to 6 years, meaning that lot in there probably forget you exist.
Here's what I think Porsche have done here. They've created a brand new product for a new customer. It doesn't seem to me that they've tried particularly hard to compete with Tesla or VW. Both those cars have more range. I think first and foremost they wanted to create a new sports car, one that looks great, that is completely unique, and just also happens to be electric.
Unlike the 911, you can actually get a human in the back of one of these. It's not, you know, it's not really for that. There is plenty of room. You get 2 seats as standard, and then you can have 3 seats for the kids as an option, just like a bench. Speaking of the 911, you have actually got a boot that's pretty good size. In fact, 444 litres inside here, which is about as much as a 3 Series. It also has a front boot, which I'll show you. Not sure what you would put in here. We can have a comments quiz. Oh, it's a clever front boot too, because it's got a question in it. Ah, you see. Does it have tech in it like a Model S does? Well, first of all, instead of having one big screen and a little virtual cockpit, you've got up to 4 screens, one even for the passenger, who can do things like change the radio, change the heating, the maps, all of that stuff. This virtual cockpit, of course, is customizable. This area here controls this up here, which is interesting. You've also got handwriting on there, so if I move this around now, you can see that it's doing that. And these little circular icons control the flow of air. It's a little bit complicated, if I'm honest. I've spent all morning just trying to get the heat on my feet. The other way to do it is to ask the car to do it with your voice, and it will do it. So it does do an awful lot of the stuff. Obviously you can't play Ridge Racer on it or any of that stuff.
To be fair, Tesla still does have the best UI in the world. And this one isn't as good, but this does have the better looking cockpit and the better materials. Next question.
How easy is it to charge? Right, okay. Now, there's a lot of moaning at the moment about EV ranges, but in this particular case, here's an interesting statistic. 70% of people who drive an EV charge at home, and that's really important to remember, specifically for a car of this kind of caliber, because you also know the sorts of miles and journeys you're going to do before you get an EV. So 216 miles, 260 miles is a reasonably respectable range, particularly for the performance and the driving characteristics of this. If I did want to charge it, well, I could go to one of the fast chargers and charge it for, I think, about £5. That will get me 40 miles, or the equivalent of this doing 46 miles to the gallon. The other option, of course, is to go to my local dealership, and I can get, I think it's 10 miles a minute, 6 minutes, 60 miles, pop in, get a biscuit.
I'm going to now try and clear up some of the range complications here, because I've said 2 numbers here for a start. It's not easy to understand. For example, the RAC, they're a good body. Now they say the Taycan is 205 miles to 216 miles of range, depending on which one you get. Then there's the performance batteries, allowing you to get from 268 miles to 301. However, Porsche say that those numbers are more like 286 to 324. Yeah.
Should obviously state the obvious here and say that if you've had supercars in the past, this is going to be a different kind of theatre. There's no V8 or V10. You know what I mean? Different. It's a different sort of car. You're not going to be able to take this to a cruise and rev it. And it's not an Instagram model. You're not going to come back to find somebody lying on it doing a selfie.
Can I take a picture with your car?
Is that what you're talking to me? You want a picture with my car?
Different audience.
Say gold digger.
What is still very much intact though is the brand heritage and actually what this is, and it is a very good looking car. I mean, when one of these comes into a car park, you know about it. It may not have the shout and the roar of a ferocious supercar, but it's something special in its own right, if not the best EV on the road today. And my favorite bit, looking out over these 2 very famous humps. What's the experience like? Right, well, there's quite a lot here. This is a big car, 2.2 tons, yet you would not believe how well this thing goes round a corner. Little bit of breakaway there because it's heavy. It's nothing to do with the car. There's a lot of 911 here. In fact, the way this thing handles is probably the first EV that's made me think it's worth the hassle. I mean, let's face it, nobody really wants to charge their car. It's something that we kind of have to do. And if we have to, then the car has to be very good. Well, particularly for me. You know, I get a bit of anxiety from time to time. The idea of me having to plan my journey and deal with some of the problems that you get with some other EV cars, I need to have all the things that a car has had in the past. Disco lights, a nice sound system, the screens have to be right. I like to know I can ring Simon up in service. That Simon, I've got a problem, right? This has got all that. So before we do our wrap up, here is the honesty bit to prove that this is not an advertisement. First of all, I was very nervous about the Burmester sound system, which this has as an option. I thought it was going to be okay. It's not. It's very, very good. But for me, it's far too expensive. £4,200 as an option would be a no deal for me. The surround camera we showed you earlier, well, that is another £1,200. Should it be standard? I'm not sure. And one thing that might be a thing for you is the autopilot. There is no autopilot on this unless you opt for it. So that's another £2,000. Anyway, there you go. Honesty bit out the way. And here we are with the wrap up. Distance covered 40 miles and an average speed of 6 miles an hour, which means we've had the power on and not been going, just doing stuff, right? Anyway, here it is, the moment of truth. 52%, 104 miles of range left to go. There we are. I'll leave you to discuss that in the comments, and all that's left for me to say really is thank you very much for staying till the end, and hopefully if you do that subscribe stuff, we will see you on the next one.